Get to know the name Will Howard because, why not? These are the names everybody should be talking about, not you-know-who. Good morning to you. Good Thursday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Steelers. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into hockey and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of Penguins and Pirates in the same place that you found this. Mike Tomlin, Omar Khan, Arthur Smith, whole bunch of other staffers were out in Columbus, Ohio yesterday at Ohio State's Pro Day. That's always well attended, not just by the Steelers. Quarterbacks almost always get a lot of attention, not just from the Steelers. And yet it was unmistakable, according to our Chris Halleck, our beat writer for DK Pittsburgh Sports, who was out there on the scene, the extent to which the Steelers were paying attention to Howard. In fact, even beyond this pro day, they'd also met with him at the NFL Scouting Combine in Indianapolis, met again yesterday before the workouts, and this is what Howard had to say afterward about the Steelers.
Yeah, it's been really good, man. I spent some time with them yesterday, and Coach Tomlin, Coach Smith, and it's really good. I really like those guys, and it's close to home for me. It's close to here. There's a lot of things to like about it, but I mean, you never know. Anything can happen, but it's definitely a great spot. They all are.
Good for him. Good for him. Good for them. This is what should be happening. The Steelers, more than anything, need to out-scout and out-develop their franchise quarterback. Did you hear my plural there? It's not going to be just one guy. Howard makes for a great case in point here. According to Chris's reporting, and I would encourage you to go check out everything that he's got on this subject on DK Pittsburgh Sports on our Steelers feed, Tomlin wasn't all that wild about Howard as of a few months ago. Funny how stuff works, though. Howard makes himself better. The Buckeyes go on to win a national championship. And in the 4 games of the college football playoffs, sit down for this, Howard completed 75.2% of his passes for 1,150 yards, 8 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. He averaged 10.6 yards per attempt. All of those numbers were up over what he had done in the regular season, against theoretically lesser opponents. Now, what does that mean for him in the draft? Who knows? I've seen him high and low. I've seen him as high as where, and I've also seen him as a day 3 guy. And I hear that about a lot of these quarterbacks, but you know what that tells me? Yeah, of course, first and foremost, that it's probably not a great quarterback class. It also tells me that somebody's going to get a guy. It doesn't matter what round it's in, any more than it mattered when Tom Brady was a 6th rounder. There's a history of this sort of thing. There's a mythology that says the only way you're ever going to get your franchise quarterback is to do what the Bengals did with Joe Burrow, or for that matter, if you want to go all the way back in time to a half century ago, what the Steelers did to get Terry Bradshaw. It's not necessary. You can get Ben Roethlisberger at number 11 overall. You can get Patrick Mahomes in the teens. And, counter to that, you can also get complete duds right at the very top. Out-scout, out-develop. Put your focus and your resources into finding as many of these candidates as possible. If they happen to be undervalued, the way Howard is, possibly put everything you got into studying him, into analyzing him, into dissecting his film, into getting to know him, into utilizing all of the metrics and biomechanics at your disposal. Then, if you bring him in, make sure you're surrounding him with not good, not very good, not great, but the best quarterback help. That is a beautiful usage of your franchise bucks. It really is. Get serious about it. Now, I'm saying all this stuff, and you know why. Because what they're going to do instead is hand Aaron Rodgers $30 million in cap space and then call it a day. And they can say otherwise. They can say, oh, no, this is it. We're totally serious here. We're going to be looking at all these young players, and we're always this or that regarding quarterbacks. Their history strongly suggests otherwise, especially in the past 5 to 8 years. So I will continue to insist, no matter how many people it might annoy, that the best thing that can happen in this scenario before anything else is for Aaron Rodgers to save these people from themselves and just retire. Call it a career. Let the Steelers take their eyes off the shiny new object, shiny old object, proceed to doing the work that they've blown off, essentially, for the better part of the past decade. When we come back, J1Q.
This segment of Daily Shot is brought to you by our good friends at Mike's Beer Bar. They're located on Federal Street, directly across from PNC Park. Mike has more than 500 beers on tap, including from more than 50 local breweries. Stop in and say hello. Tell Mike we sent you. Mike's Beer Bar.
Today's J1Q comes from Stephen Spates, who says, Kirk Cousins, DK, let's get serious. You let Mason Rudolph start. Play the 2025 season out. Of course, that would make sense. And the Pittsburgh Steelers don't make much sense anymore. It is highly aggravating to see the direction of this organization and the lack of a concrete plan to produce a Super Bowl contender. You know what's funny? When I first saw your submission, I thought you were aiming that at me. And I'm thinking, dude, you haven't been paying attention. The Cousins thing, for anybody who missed yesterday's show, I just brought up that if Rodgers, for whatever reason, doesn't end up connecting with the Steelers, that they'll probably just go pursuing Cousins or some other old guy. Because that seems to be the mode that they're in. Find the old guy to play quarterback. You're going to have the same issue. Whether or not Rodgers and or Cousins would be an upgrade over Rudolph is open to conjecture. I'm sure that probably only about 90 to 95% of everybody would say that they would be. Okay, fine. Then ask yourself the next question, which is, why would they want to do this? Why would they want to play for the Steelers? Why, when you've made $1 gazillion and you've done your thing here, there, and everywhere, would you be as singularly motivated, intensely high-level focused? No. Take it further. Feeling that this is the opportunity of a lifetime, exactly in the place where you always dreamed of succeeding. You dreamed of being the starter. You were that guy, the number 2, sometimes the number 3, buried completely, in a couple of cases, behind nobodies. I refuse to accept that intangibles aren't part of this. I refuse to accept that you wouldn't want the quarterback who would give anything for the chance and who will go to all kinds of summer throwing sessions with his wide receivers, who will be sitting there in the film room with Arthur Smith late at night studying every little thing he can about every opponent and stuff about his own performance. But you know what? It's not a winning argument. I don't get the sense I'm winning in this one. And it doesn't matter if I do or don't, because I don't have a say in this. They're going to go and get their old guy. It's going to be somebody. And when they do, with this specific head coach's history, he is going to cast the quarterback issue aside and focus on his defense. he will have solved in his mind the quarterback nuisance, and he'll have moved on. And the Steelers, as a whole, will be no closer to what it is that you just described there very nicely. I'm going to find the wording again. Right. A concrete plan to produce a Super Bowl contender. What has to be the most important step of such a plan, Stephen? That's right, pal. Got to get yourself that quarterback. You're not going to get it by constantly hunting out short-term fixes so that the coach can go back to playing with his toys. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Steelers. We'll be back with another one of these tomorrow.